Hey there, folks. Corey Nelson here with the UX+1 podcast. This is episode number 4. And today's topic, we are talking about the concept of dream jobs. What is a dream job? Why does everyone want their dream job? Who's searching for their dream job? Who's going to get hired for their dream job? What really happens when you get in that role? What can you really expect? What is it that you might not be seeing when you're looking at a company from the outside in? And our plus one today is going to be someone very special. This lady has decided to forego formal education, forego the boot camps, and to learn it all on her own. She's got her head on her shoulders in a way that you have not seen before, and you're really going to want to stick around for that conversation. This is going to be another great episode. Let's do it.
Check it out.
If this is your first time joining us, welcome. On this show, we discuss various topics under the umbrella of user experience and product design. And we have a very special format to this show, and that is who we've invited as our plus one. A plus one is our guest. These are the folks who are having some difficulty in their UX career search. We take a look at their materials, like their resume, their portfolio, and we give them some expert advice and help to get them past their difficulties, get them past their challenges, and hopefully see them higher. And a very quick thing to point out, if you are listening to the audio stream of this podcast, please note that we do have the video version that is on YouTube. You can find that at uxdesignjob.com/podcast. We have the video version in case anyone wants to follow along with the guidance that we are giving our guests as we go through their resume and portfolio. So just want to make sure everybody knows that. If you're interested in appearing on our show, we'll have some information on how to do that at the end. Until then, let's get into today's show. Antonio, what are we talking about today?
Today's topic, we'll be discussing the idea of dream jobs and dream companies.
Okay. Mm-hmm. This one, I got some pretty strong opinions on this one, as I tend to have strong opinions on a lot of things. Right?
You're not alone.
This one, you know what? I'm gonna back off for a bit. Let me hear what you've got, Antonio, because I might get on the soapbox and start ranting, and I might even pick up the megaphone and start going on about this one. Let me let you go first.
Let me try not to be too intense or get on a soapbox myself here, but I'll kick us off. I don't think the dream job exists. I'll put it plainly. There are so many factors, there are so many nuances, there are so many variables at play that a dream job just doesn't exist. Jobs aren't static, companies aren't static, things change, things evolve. The way I like to reframe this is more of like the dream life. What kind of life do you want to live? What kind of career do you want to build for yourself? What do you emphasize when you are looking for a job or looking for a company? I think that is the way, at least for me personally, that's how I start to frame it, because those are things that I have control over, at least more control over. I don't really have control over finding a dream company or the potential that a company checks all of these boxes that I have in my mind. I feel like that's just, I'm setting myself up for disappointment.
Yeah. I remember the first time I thought I maybe had that that feeling of a dream job, or at least something that I felt like I really wanted. And it's cringy now that I think back and look on it, right? It was this wasn't that long ago. That was when I was interviewing to go to work for Wells Fargo. I remember I wasn't living actually in Charlotte. I had to drive from South Carolina to Charlotte. And when I got there, I remember I was sitting in the lobby and because I'd gotten there early, and I was in the lobby, and outside of the you can see outside, and there was a lot of professionals who work in here. It's a big financial district, so guys are walking back and forth, and everyone's wearing their slacks and their shirts, and their button up shirts and their ties. And I was thinking, yeah, that's me. I want to do that. I want to be one of those guys, right? And I look back at it, I was like, what the hell was I thinking? I mean, I feel like such a tool saying that now, right? And that's not necessarily related to me being going to work at Wells Fargo. That could have been anywhere. It's just that looking back on it, I was like, what the hell was I so enthralled about when I saw that? And I can't even say what it might have been now.
Yeah, I can relate to that in a sense. I mean, I think back to a job that I thought was a dream job. It was my third job out of college, and it was awesome for a while, but it got to the point when the company grew and scaled, and in that process, the culture, the aspects of the job that I love so much began to disappear. And then upon reflection and after leaving, I realized, wow, the reason that job was my dream job was because the two jobs I had before it were just shitty entry-level jobs out of college. So anything was better, you know?
Yeah.
Well, to add a bit from what you both were talking about, because I agree with everything, I couldn't have said it better. It's important to have a dream. So we're not saying you can't dream, but have a dream and have a goal. But I feel like a dream job, yes, it's a myth. Like, what is your dream? You have a dream. How will you get there? What are your needs? What are your goals? Is it for the salary? Is it for career fulfillment, self-fulfillment, or you just want to pay the bills? So these are important questions you need to ask yourself. And it's super easy, I find, to go into that concept of a dream job when you just finished, let's say, school, or you want to enter the design world. You just want to make it. There's another concept of you want to make it. I was in that world. I actually wanted to be, well, I'm still dreaming about it, but not related to UX. I wanted to be a footwear designer. So I did apply to those big dream job companies, and it was really not a fun experience. I didn't think it was going to be that way. So for example, I went to do an interview with Under Armour. I won't disclose any personal details, but the interview process was very, very intense. And I was very intimidated. So after that, I got to I think round 3, and they had asked me some culture questions, like if I watched Duck Dynasty. I had no idea what that was, but the fact that I didn't fit in that culture, I didn't really make it. I was beyond disappointed. So after that point in my career, and I was still at school, I was like, the dream job does not exist. I am not part of that. This is like, you think it's something that's you think it's one thing, but you realize it's another. So it's very important to evaluate the company's pros and cons. And after that experience, I used Glassdoor every day. I wanted to make sure what I'm getting myself into. But until that happened to me, dream job does not exist in my vocabulary at all.
Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, and for any employers listening out there, asking the question about watching Duck Dynasty, shame on you if anybody else does that. Nobody watches that. Just to be clear.
I had no idea what it was, and I'm sorry. I was from Canada. I still am. We don't really watch Duck Dynasty.
Nobody watches it.
No one watches it.
I didn't even know what it was. It was something like "Pull me a line from Duck Dynasty." I was like,
Oh
"Excuse me, what?"
That's a bizarre,
why does it matter?
Bizarre interview question.
Yeah, but that tells you that there's a culture in that, and a dream job is not a dream. Like, it's basically somewhere you need to find balance and pursue opportunities, and you want to join a team that you belong with. So I don't think a dream job is a thing.
Yeah, I think I totally agree with that, and kind of back to what I was saying before about like the dream life. Just a quick background on why I have this philosophy or sort of adopted this philosophy is because it's kind of a cultural thing. In America, I'm not sure how it is in Canada, Crystal, but in America, especially being a millennial, when I was kind of college, hustle culture became a thing. Think back to like WeWork, like hustle culture was a thing. And I grew up in a very Italian household. I grew up most of my family still lives in Italy. I grew up visiting there a lot and was really embedded in that culture and how they do things. And one thing I noticed and picked up from that is they emphasize living life. They emphasize the balance and the joys of life. And no one ever really works to live. They live to work, or however that saying goes. I may have it backwards, but that's why I feel like it's important to find something that fits the kind of lifestyle that you want to have. For me, I want to try and emulate that culture's lifestyle as much as possible and not really be in hustle culture. Doesn't mean I'm lazy, doesn't mean I don't want to work. It's just I want to have other things that I do besides just working. And yeah, I think that's a really important thing to focus on.
Yeah, being able to slow down is so underrated these days, right?
Yeah.
There's more to life than hustling and going and getting it's I don't know what I struggle as to why that whole movement started, right? I think it's more of the gotta have it now mentality, right? The fear of missing out, the whole FOMO thing, right?
Yeah.
That's
Or
probably
social media.
Social
Like,
media.
Yeah,
we
for
look
the
up to these
flex.
people. Yeah, we're
Yeah,
like, okay, we need to make it. We need to make it. It's the same as a dream job concept.
yeah.
But
I
what
think
does that mean?
absolutely. I think the fear of needing a security blanket too. I know I graduated high school in 2009. So that was when, right around the financial crisis, people were losing jobs. Millennials who had just come out of college had just gotten their first job and then immediately been laid off. So it's like there was this drive of like, I'll take whatever I can get and I'll put 80 hours a week in.
Yeah. And I'm glad you said that, because I was going to touch on that as well. That thing about being laid off, right? A dream job will lay you off, right? In fact, some of these bigger companies, a lot of folks that people kind of idolize as these dream companies like Google and Twitter and Netflix, they're all in the news for laying folks off, right? They will lay you off at the stroke of a keystroke, and that's all there is to it. There's nothing you can do about it. You're just a number, right? You may think of that company as a dream. They think of you as a liability, right? You're just a number. And as soon as the ledger starts to look unbalanced on one side, they will cut you off and you're out of the door. There's nothing you can do about it, right? No one in management and senior management, middle management, whatever, no one thinks of their employees as dreams, right? You're there to get work done. And as soon as it becomes inefficient for them to have you there, then you're out. And that's the end of it.
Oh yeah, and they don't care. They don't have feelings.
Oh yeah, yeah.
No.
They're not like, wow, you're the best. We're not gonna make it without you. We're gonna make it without you. Bye.
Yeah, right. And even if someone does feel that way, like maybe your boss does feel that way, it's like your boss might love you to pieces, but their hands are tied, right? It's like, you know what? I don't have any say in this. I have to let you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. At the end of the day, like, business is business, and that's how you have to think about it, unfortunately. And I feel like what we're discussing, all of these concepts, because we have a lot of experience on the market, doesn't have to be in UX design, but like I said in the beginning, you look up to that concept, the dream job, but we've been through so much that it just doesn't exist. We've experienced different environments and different companies, so we kind of understand that language. And I feel like for the young designers out there that are listening to this, or researchers, try to have conversations with people that have been, working in the field, and talk to them and get that going. Don't be shy to talk about this, because then if you always think about the dream job, then you're just wasting your time, I feel.
Yeah. You're setting yourself up to be disappointed.
Yeah.
Because if you go into design, if you're a young designer and you're interviewing and you have this template in your mind of what your job is going to look like and the company is going to be like, and that doesn't come true, and it most likely won't come true, you're going to be disappointed. You're going to be like, well, why did I do this? And that might skew or distort the passion that you had for it, the drive that you had for it in the first place. So it's like, just take that possibility for disappointment out while you can.
Go in with an objective mind. I read somewhere, someone had made a comment, basically said, take the job first, work, evaluate it, and then decide if it's a dream, right? Then decide if it's something you really love, right? Don't go in with that expectation, because it's all uphill from there, right? There's a lot that you have to you have to try and force to make it work, right? You're trying to force it into this ideal that you have, and if it doesn't get there, then, like you said, Antonio, it's just a big disappointment. Just go there objectively and see how it feels to you, right? Are they going to avail themselves to you so that you feel like you're working for somewhere else, pretty special, and not the other way around?
Yeah, set yourself up to be pleasantly surprised.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good way to put it.
For me as a researcher, I treat this as a research project. I treat
Mm.
everything as a research project, but always have your goals, your wants, your needs, and that's going to help you, filter out where you would like to work as your dream job or whatever you want to call that. And it's going to help you eliminate some of those. If you don't have a structure, you're just going to be all over the place. And there's nothing wrong of you writing those down and actually figuring out, okay, does this match with this one? Does it match with this one? Do an Excel sheet, put stickies on the wall, cross them out, and then switch them around. You're basically utilizing design thinking to solve a problem.
Mhm.
That's how I apply to jobs. That's how I've done it all the time. And it helps a lot, especially if you have those key important elements to answer that question.
Yeah, and back to what you said about using Glassdoor or talking to other folks, right? Because you have to make those distinctions with that information, right? You can't look at it from the outside because you're looking at it from the customer lens, right? You're looking at it,
Exactly.
right? That's the wrong perspective to go in. The way a company treats its customers is a lot different from the
Mhm.
way they treat their employees.
And I think just to kind of piggyback off what you were saying, Crystal, is I think we found another example yet again where the design thinking process method can fit into a lot of things because it's a
Mhm.
framework to tackle big problems, but allow for, many possible solutions.
Mhm.
There's a book, I think it's called Designing Your Life, that some instructors from the D school at Stanford wrote, and they kind of break down using the design thinking process for sort of finding the career that fits you and sort of building that dream life. And one of the things they talked about was prototyping. Have prototyping conversations with people that
Mhm.
work at companies. Reach out to them on LinkedIn, not to get a reference, not to sort of plug your resume, but just to be like, hey, do you have 15 minutes just to talk to me about what it's like working here? I'm just curious, and build those connections. And through that, you're kind of doing your research.
Yeah, I love that. Absolutely love that. Thanks for pointing that out. Another thing that I find helpful too is if you already have connections and you know these people and you know their types of personality, you kind of have an idea the culture that they're working in, and that's how I refine my research. I have contacts everywhere around the world, but I know that these people are like that, therefore they fit in. That's not really my style. So it helps you understand. If you understand how to read people and understand energy, that helps a lot too. If you have connections and you already kind of know where they fit in, that's one thing that I use as well.
I can only imagine now if if you're a researcher or a designer and you go into an interview and one of the projects you showcase is how you use design thinking to decide on what job to apply for. I can't imagine what kind of bonus points that's going to get you with the interview team, right? If you show them all your work and your research for how you put that information together and narrow down your scope for who you wanted to work for. God, that's got to be, I don't know. That sounds like absolute gold to me. I'm gonna have to
Well,
do
you
some digging on that.
well, you know what? You don't really want to give out your golden recipe unless it's trademarked. Let's
That's right. Yeah.
But yeah,
It's
to add to that, sorry, Antonio, I just my
no,
mind
you're
is going a
go
bit
ahead.
crazy here. Everybody uses design thinking every day. We all solve problems, but
Yeah.
they don't know they're using it, and they're not using the tools that we use. But at the end of the day, we are
Mhm.
actually using problem solving techniques. We're just actually doing it with the proper methodologies.
Yeah. I mean, design thinking is such a great way to just tackle big problems and complex problems. I mean, I'm using design thinking and Scrum principles right now to do renovations on my house. Like, how
There
am I
you
going to
go.
organize things? How am I going to tackle things? How I prioritize things? We use it every day. It's just us designers have this defined framework that so we can kind of point to it and talk about what it is. But you're right, people do it. Um, but focusing in on it a little bit more and prioritizing the right things at the right time, yeah, you can build that dream life doing that. I think I'm an overthinker, which is why I think I'm in this field.
Okay, it sounds like I'm intense, but I'm not. When it's something that serious, my career, buying a house, buying a car, I need to make sure I'm making the right decision. And that's why I need to see all my options on the wall. If it's something I need to tackle that's quick, I'm not gonna do a full-on map and like, all these things. That's a bit intense. But when it becomes something that's gonna change my life, I'm gonna take every second I have to make sure I'm making the right decision.
No, I can partially get behind that. I say partially because I do I will do some surface level research on big big decisions, but at some point, you know what, is you're not going to get all the information, or maybe I'll get comfortable to enough to say I don't know how this is going to turn out, but I'm going to start taking a step forward towards it anyway, right?
Mhm.
And that's something that I teach my students to kind of be the same way. It's this air of being fearless. That's the way that I kind of put it. I was like, you know what, I'm gonna do this, and I might screw it up, 10 ways before Sunday, but I'm gonna learn some stuff along the way, right? And then I can go back and fix it. So I do take that kind of approach. It's not fully where it's like ready, fire, aim, right? It's not quite like that, but it's a little bit close to it, right? Right. You don't always have to aim perfectly. You just kind of shoot. You might hit something, you might hit someone else, right? Mistake, sorry. But you go back and you do it again.
Yeah. And that's kind of to me, you're kind of drawing on the fear of failure, right?
Yeah.
I think, especially when you're a young designer and you haven't had that first chance yet.
Yeah.
You really don't want to fail. You really want to nail it. And sometimes when you're not struggling to find that job or get that interview or make it to that next round, it can feel like you're not making any progress. But that failure, and every time that you miss and screw up or make a mistake, it's a learning opportunity. You're just gathering more and more data to do better in the future.
Right. You don't fail until you quit, right?
Yeah.
That's when it's over.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And to go back to that dream job concept, I'm stuck on it.
No, you're good.
But basically what I wanted to say is you might not find, your dream job. You might have to explore different industries and opportunities to understand, what engages with you the most and what helps you grow personally as well as professionally. I read something online that I really, really loved. It's on Business Insider. I know sometimes it can be good or bad, but the quote was, if it's too hard, we fail at the job. And if it's too easy, we're uninterested. So they were suggesting a dream job should be a place where you find balance and pursuing opportunities that offer consistent growth. And I related to that a lot because I've had jobs where it was so hard. And I felt like I was failing. Like Antonio was saying, like you feel like you're failing. It's hard. You don't know what to do. And if it's too easy, it's just too comfortable and I'm not interested and I'm bored. So it's really important to find that balance. And I really liked what they were discussing.
Yeah, I think for almost all the jobs that I've had a lot of jobs. A lot of people know that. I burned through jobs. Almost all of them I left because I either got tired of the work. That was my main reason. I usually got tired of the work, right? I started to get bored. I wasn't challenged anymore, or just, it was less interesting, right? Very rarely did I leave a job because of the people, or that has happened, but that's a very rare instance, right? Now I look at jobs are a tool, right? And part of a big thing of what I do, actually the main thing of what I do, my coaching, as I want people to find work. I want people to find gainful employment. I want people to find jobs that they're happy with. It's a bit of a struggle because I sometimes come off as I'm kind of anti-corporate, which I'm not. But what I am is I'm pro-employee, right? I'm pro people, right? So I want people to make sure that they're looking out for themselves, because your company is only going to look out for you so far until they're not, right? And it's easy for them to find a reason that they don't need to anymore. I always encourage employees to look out for themselves first.
Another I guess an ideology that's sort of adjacent to that is don't center your whole life around your career.
Oh yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Don't make your life be about your career.
Yeah.
It's great to have those ambitions. It's great to want to grow and succeed, but you have to be able to shut it off,
Yeah.
go do something else, have something else in life that you love to do and that makes you happy. That's what gives you purpose, because at the end of the day, that job might not be there anymore. That company might not be there anymore. You're going to retire eventually, hopefully. And it's like, what are you living for at that point if
Right.
that's what your whole focus was?
Right. Right. People kind of struggle with that imposter syndrome because of that, right? Like when there's something for so long and then all of a sudden they're not. I was like, okay, well now who am I? Right. I don't have that job anymore. That's what they identify with. And that's such a dangerous space to be in.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I don't know if you had listened to our previous podcast about the designer diva, or you're gonna listen to it after, but I feel like what we discussed there is a bit similar to here. Don't just have your job. You should have a balance of, other hobbies that fulfill you, so you're not disappointed at the end. I got this job, then it didn't work. You need to have a balance of other things to keep you grounded.
Yeah.
100%.
I mean, diversity, the more diverse you can make your life, that happier and healthier you're going to
Of
be, I
course.
think, in all aspects.
Yeah. All right. I think that's going to wrap us up for this topic. Let's call in our plus one.
So today we have Katie Kim. Katie is a unique guest in a sense that she doesn't have a resume or a portfolio. She's really here today to conversate with us about her process and her next steps into the UX world. She doesn't have any formal training in UX. She's actually self-taught, so she's using online courses and YouTube videos to learn the best practices on her own.
All right. Love it. Let's bring in Katie. We have our guest with us, Miss Katie Kim. Katie, how are you this evening?
I'm doing great. Thanks for asking.
If you wouldn't mind, tell us a little bit about how you got to where you are, what led you to UX,
Yeah.
and then we'll just have an open conversation about how we can help you.
Sounds good. So I worked in the dental office as an office manager, basically just administrator roles. One of the biggest things that really inspired me to transition to UX is just some of the limitations I felt I had in making impact. And I felt like working in healthcare, it was very rewarding, but it was also I felt like the impact was limited to that particular day or when they had a problem. It wasn't like on an everyday basis. And I really craved a position where I could make impact on a more everyday basis and just be in the world of technology. That's essentially what inspired me to pursue this field. And as for being self-taught, I recalled when I first started my job in the dental field, I actually knew nothing about dentistry. I knew nothing about healthcare. And the way I learned was by just being self taught, just learning on my own. And I was confident that I could at least, enjoy learning the process. But that was basically the best way I learned is, being self-taught, but also, learning from other people and just through experiences of other people. So that's kind of led my journey to here.
Okay, interesting. So when you say that you kind of felt pulled a little towards technology, technology can go many different ways, right? So what was the pull specifically for user experience as opposed to, say, programming or data analytics or data science or something like that?
Like personality wise, I'm more comfortable, interacting with people, like collaborating, and I like working with others. I like working by myself, but I just couldn't see myself being holed up, coding all day, every day. Just personally, I could spend all day on Figma, but as far as like trying to solve a problem like on my own, and with only my perspective, I felt like that route would be a little bit not the best fit for me per se and my personality. and also my strengths and weaknesses. So I feel like UX was like the perfect balance between, being in technology, but UX is more so, UX isn't completely like artsy, like graphic design, but it's a perfect combination of both. So you have that, visual element. You do have to make a product pleasing, but you also, essentially, you're just thinking about the process, the psychology aspect. And that's kind of like what I studied. Like I studied the social sciences in school. So that really intrigued me about the career.
Awesome, awesome. So you heard it here, folks. Katie was not into being a caveman and coding by herself in a dark room
Nothing
as
wrong
as
with
your
that.
typical programmer. She didn't say that, but we got it.
All those developers.
we just lost about a third of our audience. That's all right.
Can I just say real quick? It's refreshing to hear you speak because you have a really awesome and realistic grasp on the field for having not had a UX job yet. I like your description and kind of what you're saying. Yeah, it's just cool to hear.
Thank you.
And I also want to add, I was just listening to what you were saying. It really sounds like you know what you want. You don't seem lost at all. So kudos to you.
Yeah, you're speaking with a
You're
lot of
grounded.
confidence.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm trying.
No, you're doing good.
Yeah, you're killing it.
So tell us a little bit about what you've picked up so far.
It's definitely been tough. So being self-taught, the biggest challenge is the discipline piece. Just being able to, so one aspect is disciplining yourself to, seek out the right information, seek out the right sources. And the second piece that I know I personally struggle with is the lack of collaboration. So as I've mentioned earlier, I love working with people. I love being around people. I just feel like there's always something new you can learn from literally any individual. And it's definitely in the discussion forums, it's a little more passive. So there is a little limitation to being in something like that of an online course where it's literally just you and the computer and your software, your Figma software. So you have to actively seek out community through LinkedIn, through Discord, through Facebook groups. So that aspect has been definitely a challenge, but I'm a little like 2/3 done with it. And my goal is to just learn as much as I can. But I also do recognize that it's nowhere near the end. And what I'm learned so far, my biggest takeaway is there is no shortcut to being a UX designer. I know I've been reading a lot of stories about, everyone's different experiences about, this person how to become a UX designer in 3 months, how I got my role within 2 months after boot camp. And you can do it too. I've been struggling for 2 years and even now I can't find a job, so many various experiences. The biggest thing that I'm appreciating is that you literally can't become a designer overnight. It takes years. And I think our previous talk with Corey, he really shed light on his own experience, even after decades of, even years of learning UX. There's always something new to learn, and the imposter syndrome doesn't go away, I hear.
Yeah.
So yeah.
No, it doesn't.
So many folks really miss that very particular point, that it is not fast, right? And it's certainly not easy. There's a lot of pushback against the hiring community, right? That says it's too difficult to get in, right? It's difficult to get in for a reason, right? There's a very good reason for that. And every company has their own reason. And when you do get in, you find out very quickly why it was so difficult. Right? It's the mentality shifts. And I think you're kind of preparing yourself for that. And I think that's gonna put you in a good place to deal with the frustration, because we all deal with it, and nothing happens overnight, like you said.
You have a good perspective on the level of creativity that is involved. There's a lot of juniors out there that think it's this like creative artsy role, right? I'm starting to get that understanding, but it's you understand that it's really not. The creativity comes from, there is creativity involved. It's in how creative can you be with your problem solving skills. How creative can you be in solution finding? It's not how creative can you be in building a screen, right? Because patterns, UI patterns, components, that stuff's all been built, and we all reuse the same stuff over and over again. It's just basically organizing rectangles on a screen, right? How creatively can you think about the solutions though? So it's really refreshing and cool to hear you kind of understand that right now, because that mentality, that understanding is going to serve you so well when you really start kind of going at applying for jobs and interviewing and sharing case studies and that kind of stuff. That understanding is your foundation.
It is one positive. Ironically enough, it is the one piece that I keep reminding myself, and it's not always easy. And I'm sure a lot of people can relate, especially when you're just new to the field, and it's hard not to compare yourself, especially in terms of experience. Obviously, you do have people who are brilliant coders, who also have experience in visual design. But I think what really helps is just reminding myself that it's not about this the technical skill. The technical skills are an important piece. Like I said, I met my maker when I tackled on my first wireframing projects ever.
Mhm.
And it was interesting. I don't know if you guys can recall that very first project that you guys took on, and you were at least for me, I was so proud. I was shaking from excitement. I looked at it, and mind you, I'm literally just in my room. It's just me and Figma, a one-on-one, and I show it to somebody, an actual, and especially when you go through the usability testing, what you think is right or is convenient for the user, huge discrepancy when you
Yeah.
Yep.
huge when you just put it out to an actual user. And I think the hardest thing for me was also just shutting up, just
Mm.
keeping my emotions in check, my facial expressions in check. And as you can see, I'm very bubbly by nature. So I had to tone it down for sure. And when I was doing the usability testing, it was very eye opening. And I think I'm not gonna lie, it sucked. It hurt a little bit, but I also recognize that, and I'm sure a lot of people can relate, it's devastating when you get that critical feedback, just because you spend so much time. At least I am a perfectionist, I think I spent a little too much time wireframing, and it defeats the whole purpose of it. So all these like little tiny features you thought were really cool for the user, you put it out there and it doesn't get touched, or people are like, wait, what is this?
They don't recognize
So
it.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. And I think that was what was really cool. I think a lot of people can relate is this idea that it's actually refreshing, because it means that you're trying to separate. At least I'm trying to separate myself from the design, and just really like that's where the iterative piece comes into play, I guess, in UX, and that's actually like what I love. I'm coming to love more about it. Like I said, it hurts a lot, but I'm having fun with that piece. And I think ironically, it is helpful to just understand that it's not about you. And it's really about, what makes sense to the user, and also like the business. You can't just, and that was another thing that I wanted to ask you guys about. You know, some of obviously like project wise, and this is something that I encountered is in our portfolio, we're supposed to have like 2 to 3, if you want to be superstar, like 3 to 5, but 2 to 3 projects. And a lot of the times these courses take you through these fictitious projects, or at least the apps that you would create. And I think the biggest slap in the face that I had was realizing that in practice, you have to kind of think realistically.
Hmm.
And I wanted to ask you guys about your experience with like just designing. I know, and I did some background research on you guys just to learn more about you guys. I think, Antonio, you have experience freelancing, and obviously, Crystal, you have a bunch of internship experience and a lot, to bring. How how was that transition for you guys, doing your own projects, and then transitioning to the actual like workforce, and working for a company?
So I can actually relate a lot with your experience, Katie, because I'm also self-taught. I totally relate to what you're saying about your first case study. I mean, I bombed my first case study like so bad. My mentor at the time, I'm also kind of super OCD perfectionist. I built these, what I thought at the time were these beautiful wireframes, I built a whole design system. I spent so much time on like the visual elements of this application, didn't consider like the usability, right? I was just kind of indulging in my own creative desires, right? I showed it to him and he was just like, what is this garbage? Like he was pretending to be the client and he was just like, why are you showing me a final thing? Like you haven't shown this to me before. And just kind of pretending he was a client, and he just grilled me. And I was kind of like demoralized. That was a huge, huge lesson. And that was like the first case study that I actually showcased on my portfolio, because I wanted to say like, I failed this miserably, but I learned so much for it. And I'm never going to make that mistake again. My first project that I think helped me get a job wasn't a project for a client. It wasn't a project for a company. It was mid-pandemic in the summertime, and we were using HelloFresh, right? We were testing it out. And there was, my fiance at the time was on a keto diet. There was not a way to actually substitute certain ingredients for different meals, right? You couldn't change white rice for brown rice or pork for chicken, that kind of stuff. So I wanted to design something in the interface that would allow users to actually make ingredient swaps while keeping the core recipe largely the same. Fun fact, it's actually a feature that HelloFresh has now. But I did a whole case study on it, and I utilized all of the lessons that I had learned from like these massive failures. And because it was sort of a real world problem that I could actually get feedback on from users, i.e. the people who were sharing the meal kits with me, other HelloFresh users, it gave me a lot of insight into just having a problem that was a little bit closer to real life. And I think that kind of helped me bridge the gap between sort of a hypothetical brief of making like a social media platform for music lovers versus like what you do in the real world at an organization. I don't know if that answers your question or not, but I hope that
Yeah,
helps give some perspective to
yeah,
you.
no, definitely. And I'm excited to hear about Crystal's experience, just because, like, again, as we're the newbies, we have this we have this fantasy idea, like we're gonna change, the world of technology. We're gonna, change lives, and but I realize, like in practice, like that may not necessarily be true. You're actually solving problems that already, like products that already exist already, that are not as may not be as innovative but need real time solving. And I definitely, it's definitely helpful, like hearing that.
I'm a bit different from Antonio. Actually, I went to design school, but industrial design. So we had critiques, reviews, presentations almost every day. We were put in an uncomfortable situation literally every day. So people would cry every day, people would run away every day. So I got used to this mentality of letting go of my product or my research or whatever we were working on, because it doesn't belong to me, it belongs to the user. So that's something that I learned from school. But at the end of the day, I didn't really learn much about the principles of UX or anything around that. It was mostly through my internship. And the reason why I actually got accepted in UX is because I had designed this Inuit table in my fourth year program at school. And I had incorporated the culture over there into the actual problem solving and into the design. And the company was really impressed how I took the culture and the users into consideration and apply it in the product. But I didn't have any wireframes. I didn't have anything related to UX, but I was confident and I was like, this is how I solve a problem. And that's what it would look like in a tangible solution. So it was very competitive where I had applied and they wanted me to solve a problem on the spot and then work with someone actually on the spot and present it to the team. So it was very stressful, but all I kept in my head is, okay, this is a design problem. I got this. Like, it's not that complicated, it's like solving a problem if you're working in retail or any other environment. So you need to keep that in mind. It's the same for you. You worked in different places, but you're still solving problems every day. So that's how I got into UX. And actually, at that point, that's where I started teaching myself because the company wasn't equipped to teach interns. So I was almost like teaching myself how to get there. But I did have background of industrial design at school, which is technically solving problems for anything. So at the end, after my internship, I did another one. I did a few internships at different places, and I don't know, there's some pros and cons. Pros is I learned a lot of stuff by myself. It was not easy, but I'm definitely grateful for it. And then right now, what I'm currently doing, the difference is I'm actually solving problems for thousands and millions of Canadians. So my impact is way stronger than, like I'm designing a pen or anything like that. So it's more complex problems. And I feel like I kind of like it because it keeps me on my tippy toes. And you can't just, take a look at the problem and be like, oh, yeah, we can just do that. Like, what are the consequences if we apply these solutions? And what are the benefits if we do? So that's how I got into UX. And I'm mostly into research. I've done a bit of design, but I'm mostly targeted into research since my internship.
Wow, that's awesome. And I actually I was just curious on the topic of entering the field from another field. I mean, obviously, Corey, sorry, you tapped into a little bit of everything, but I think Antonio, your background is more in finance, if I'm correct.
Yes.
And
Mostly finance. Actually, it's mostly product support and QA. I did finance for a little bit. I went to school for finance and risk management. I worked in financial planning, wealth management for about a year. After tax season, I was working 80-hour weeks from January to tax day, and I realized this is not the job for me. I couldn't handle it. So I ended up, it was a startup actually, which we all have our opinions on the tech companies. We don't really recommend them, but
Yeah, don't do it.
On startups rather. But yeah, so it was a educational technology startup, and I started as a support person. It was kind of a low-level grunt work job, but it got me talking to users and hearing user problems on a daily basis. So I really built empathy for them. I built a lot of soft skills actually in this role. And through that work, we were a small company, so I wore a lot of different hats. Through that work, I ended up actually working closely with the developers, doing QA work. So anytime a new feature or a new part of the tool was being released or tested, I had a checklist, and I would go through the checklist and I would test things out. I started to kind of understand usability, and I'd be able to identify usability problems by doing this QA work. We had no UX designer at the time. So then through that, I started, in my spare time, coming up with solutions to some of the problems that I was identifying during my QA work. And I was actually designing in Keynote, just drawing rectangles and making wireframes in Keynote. And I would give those designs to the developers, and I would show them like, hey, maybe we could do this, or maybe we could have an email thing that gets triggered when we do this, and just kind of find different interesting solutions. I was talking to instructors and students every day. I was so close to the problem. So I felt like I could help. That was actually, I didn't realize I was doing UX. I had no idea what UX was. The company ended up hiring a UX designer. And I was like, oh, what? This is what I've been doing. This is crazy. I tried to get a job with them as a designer. They didn't want to help me into that position. So I left. I said, this is what I really want to do. I love doing this. This is so interesting to me. I don't really have to hear user problems. I want to stop them from happening. So I left. I started reading different articles and books. I never finished one, but I started them, and just trying to learn the theories and the principles and understand design thinking, and then try putting it to practice while also leveraging the knowledge that I had gained previously. And I kept in touch with people that I used to work with developers. I kept in touch with the designer that I'd worked with. I sent them my work for feedback. They helped guide me, acted as mentors. It's an interesting path for me because I came from tech, then left tech, and then went back into, I guess, tech, you could call it. But yeah, that's pretty much my way into the field. It was kind of a roundabout way to get in, but the biggest recommendation or piece of advice that I always give to someone trying to get into the field is find out what UX skills you already have, because you definitely have them, and leverage that. You know, like put the UX tag on those skills and then sell them to the people that you're trying to get hired by.
Awesome. And I have to ask, just out of curiosity, on the note of ideating, I noticed the guitars in the background, and I know you have a musical background. And Chris, I think you did dancing. Yeah. I want to know, and I bring that up because I know UX, we're talking about, so it's more focused on solving problems and processing everything, how why people do certain things, why you choose this design over that design. It's about the why and the psychology. But also, I know you have to have just a little bit of creativity. And I'm interested in knowing, like, would you guys say that artsy, hobby or like background kind of gives you like an edge with that creativity? Like, does it inspire you to, bring out that creativity part when you're designing things, or how does that play into the creativity aspect of your career?
Yeah, I was talking with another design director last night, and she said something pretty interesting in that we're all probably somewhere on the ADD spectrum to be in design, which is probably true in a regard. It's hard to sit still sometimes. It's hard to be happy with stuff that you work with and that you complete, and you're always tinkering with things. So creativity, attention deficit disorder, maybe they're two sides of the same coin. Who knows? Yeah.
Yeah, tinkering with things, iterating on things, not being happy with stuff. It's never good enough.
Yeah.
It definitely plays into it. I will say, honestly, the way that music and design for me actually fit together and help each other, it's not so much on the creative part, it's the thick skin part. I spent 10 years playing live, playing in bands, touring, putting my music out there for the world to hear, played to plenty of empty rooms. And I did it because I loved it, not because I wanted to become famous, not because I wanted to be popular, but because I truly love playing music. It's a part of who I am. I have to do it. So I got thick skin, because if you go to play a show and there's no one there and you can't handle that, you're not going to play shows for very long. But I didn't really care. I was just there to have fun on stage with my friends. So that actually fed into me showing designs to people and being in usability tests where all my ideas kind of get ripped to shreds, and just being like, okay, cool. I'll go back to the drawing board and do it again. I'll iterate on that, take it on the chin. I won't take it personally. That's the biggest way that I think music has helped me in my design career so far.
Yeah, so Antonio, you kind of took the words out of my mouth. I've trained in ballet for a long, long time. And the way that I see that in relation to design is thick skin and discipline and teamwork. We get criticized on if our finger is not placed properly. Like, who does that? If my eye is not like looking at the right spot. So I have extra thick skin. As soon as I joined the design program, I didn't give a crap if my teacher said this is crap, put it in the garbage. I'll be like, cool, I'll do it again. People used to cry, I didn't care. I had my ballet teacher like beat us up, not physically but mentally, like so that's how I
Savage.
see. Yeah,
So
it's pretty.
savage.
I lived in savage world. What can I tell you? So at the end of the day, it makes me a savage. That's the problem.
You and me both.
But I actually use that when I get interviewed, and if they ask me, okay, I see dance, I actually put dance on my resume to show them that I've done that for X amount of years. I was loyal to it. It taught me how to be disciplined and how to be a great team player. And like Antonio said, like I had professional gigs pretty much everywhere. And the way that I see how dance shaped me up as a designer, researcher, whoever, as a person is no pain, no gain. Like, we're bleeding on stage. People are looking at us. You need to smile and keep going. You're not allowed to cry. So that's pretty much how it helped me. And it actually helps me when I get bored. Like, if I'm working and I get bored, I just put a song on, I do a quick dance. Or if I had a bad day, or actually if I had a great day and we had a great research report, I literally put my favorite song and just dance. So I use that during my work day. Since we work at home, I'm allowed to do that. But if I do that at the office, people will think I'm crazy. But that's how I see it together, and that's how I use it. And don't be afraid to sell that, as long as it makes sense. You don't want to sell something that doesn't fit in the story. But if it does, then yeah, that's definitely bonus points.
Yeah, these two
I,
are good to my laughter. They're pretty dedicated.
I,
Me, I'm just doing
yeah.
this till I get my K-pop
Oh,
career
okay.
started.
I was gonna say I was dying to ask about that piece because and I think that's what's so cool about entering UX. Yes, it helps to have educational background in design. It definitely helps, but I see so many people with so many different backgrounds. I see people, and I connected with someone who came up with his own coffee roasting company. It was awesome. And there's so much of it that he could transfer to UX, and some of like a true hobby or something that he really enjoys. And he's able to pull a lot out of that and tap into that when needed. So it's cool hearing, how that shaped you guys into amazing designers. And I did a little ballet as a kid,
Great.
and tap. So I know just a little bit. I was I think I admit, I think I was the chubbiest one, and I was also the worst dancer. My sense of balance was just, hence why I didn't continue. But it's awesome hearing about that, because I think that's so important. And I sometimes struggle with this when I'm just, like I said, the thing with being a designer also, or learning how to be a designer, is when it comes to the technical skills, like being on Figma, it's just me and the software, and it's really quiet, and maybe some Spotify music, but it's just you and your thoughts and data. And so it can be I've run into situations where I can spend hours on it, and I get not burned out, but just almost defeated. And I don't know what it would be considered in UX design, but kind of like writer's block, where my inspiration, when I started, it was like, yeah, like I'm gonna come up with something amazing and it's gonna change lives, it's
Yeah.
And then I realized that, that's one part of it. So being able to tap into that, I think that's so important when it comes to, because I've been working on my portfolio, but it's not complete yet. But I take that into consideration. I think when I was first introduced to the field, I saw all these portfolios that were beautiful and quite impressive. Something that I'm noticing is just keeping it very straightforward, very easy to read. And I think oftentimes I'm guilty of this myself. I get in my head of trying to make it look nice and, make it a project in itself. But I forget to realize that, especially some of the most successful designers, I look at their portfolios. I look at your portfolios, and it's just so easy to follow. And there's nothing super complex, like there's no fancy little animations, and it's nice, but it focuses on like what really matters, which is like the content, and showing your thought process. And I'm learning how important that is. It's not just about did you create something that actually works. It's about what did you learn, the takeaways, the failures. And I think that's what I'm learning so much of is it's not making it look pretty. That's helpful. So just wanted to get your inputs on that.
Yeah, we've talked about this on the show before, and you're right in that your portfolio is a project, right? It's a product, but you have to remember who it's for, right? It's not for you. It's for the folks who are reviewing it. It's for the folks that you're trying to get interested in giving you a call to offer you a job. That's the point of it. That's your user problem. How can I get someone interested to call me for a job? And if you keep that in mind and you realize that your portfolio is not a personal art project, it's not a personal statement, it's just a container for you to showcase some of your previous work so that people can get interested to give you a call. That's really it. If you keep it just that simple, then your approach to putting it together will be a lot easier. It'll be so much easier for you to manage, and you'll have a much, much better product by the time you're done with it.
And you know what helps a lot is if you establish a system, like Antonio said, like make it easy to update, make it easy to work with, and make it fun as well. Don't see it as a burden. Like this is just a part that represents you and your work and how you solve problems. Try to create a system way before you design that. That way, okay, when I can plug in my project, this is how I'll do it because I did the same for the other ones. Instead of you starting from scratch and sitting there and be like, "Oh, how am I going to plug this in?" So establish your system. That way it's easy and you have a structure and you can just keep going at it. And also, I think I'm going to touch point on what you said. You looked at a lot of portfolios, they're cool, there's some moving things. It's really important that you focus on what the goal of your portfolio is. You're an ambassador for the users out there, so your thing shouldn't be funky or creative or anything like that. You can have your creative side, but the most complex thing in your portfolio should be your problem. This is my complex problem. That's how I solved it. And I think there's false culture out there. I don't know, is it because of Behance or Pinterest, but there's a lot of creative portfolios that are not functional. And that's really annoying. And you don't want to be portrayed that way, right? You're trying to make it easy for the person. And the nice aspect should be me going through your portfolio and literally understanding how you go through a case study, how you solve it, how you applied those insights, and how you got to your design solution.
Wow, I'm gonna actually put that on my wallpaper. The most complex thing about your portfolio should be your problem.
Quote of the night.
That's golden. Yeah, that's awesome. But that's really helpful. Just focusing on like what really matters.
Yeah.
I knew we kept Crystal around for something.
Hey, stop
it. Wow, she's spitting fire. That's awesome. But it's true. I think and I think that's the thing that a lot of, as people who are new to the field get so caught up with and also intimidated by is, the design aspect of it. What is very optimistic is and promising is trying to remind myself that it's not about making it look fancy. It's also like not putting everything on there. I know I've seen some really intense portfolios where they set up, it's about storytelling. So it's like this 3-paragraph like essay about, the background and then just every piece of it. And I know, Corey, you're not a fan of putting that ideate, brainstorm.
Oh, I die a little bit every time I see that. It's really bad.
But like a lot of things taking up space, and I think I'm trying to remember that it's not necessarily about having everything on there. It's just being kind of intentional with what you want to show.
So I was going to ask you, actually, have you ever thought of UX research, or you're really keen on UX design?
Yes, actually. So I've been thinking a lot about it. And when I first started learning about the field, that's actually the part that really excited me the most because naturally, working in healthcare, you deal with a lot of patients with just so many different experiences, different backgrounds, literally just using that to cater towards, customizing my service. What can I do to, cater to that? And I think there's so much power in research, the UX research piece that really like draws me in. Something that I actually thought of in my previous conversation with Corey. We were talking about, the importance of specializing, the importance of finding that one piece, like the specialty, like the T. I think it's called the TUX designer, or this, where you excel in one aspect of it. You know how to do everything, you're familiar with everything, but there's just this one part of it that really just speaks to you. And so far, it has been the user research piece. Being able to, like you say, being an advocate, but also being able to help the businesses, because obviously it's not always going to be 100% customer. You have to bring value to business, and it has to work, as a team. Like you can't have a business without customers, and customers need a business to give them service, good product.
Yeah, honestly, I kind of got a sense of what you were discussing with us, that you really like research without you telling me. So I would suggest, to discover it a bit and see where you're the most passionate about, and just go ahead with that one. At the end of the day, you will still be doing research as a designer, but if you want to do full research, then I would suggest to go with that. But I just want to clarify something. You won't be doing research every day. At the end of the day, you're going to be doing research, talking to the users out there, or your stakeholders, or whoever your participant is. And you'll be able to give them, tangible like recommendations to their design. So you still have to understand UX design principles. Like you won't just be doing research and giving a report, and like you will have an influence wherever um, that stage of the process you're at. And sometimes it can be you that's, hey, you guys are in the wrong stage, like you should have tested that before. Like it's not always like step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. Like when I do my job, like sometimes, my clients are like, oh, we want to test that, but doesn't mean that I'm going to do it. I'm going to follow what's right. So, this is where you can be creative and advising, when the testing can happen and why and how that's going to be beneficial.
I was going to say it's going to be really important to you as you start to look for work that you identify companies that have a strong, mature research team, right? Especially if that's the direction you want to go, because most companies are going to have a small or maybe even a large army of engineers. They're going to have a somewhat smaller, actually, usually a very smaller subset of designers and an even smaller subset of researchers, right? So you want to find one that's at least has a very good, solid, mature research organization that you can insert yourself into. And again, you're going to have trouble finding that with startups. Just saying that again.
Yeah, I was, that's why I was looking at obviously the big companies, just getting a feel of not hundreds, but just selecting, narrowing it down to some of the places that I can see myself working.
From what I've heard from you today, Katie, I think when you're ready to enter the industry, you're not going to have very much trouble. You're coming from a place that I think so many juniors just miss, right? They miss everything outside of what they're doing in Figma. And you have already figured that out, and you're still very early in your journey and haven't even really started applying it. You're going to be in a very, very good spot when you're ready to get a job.
You will do great. I just want to recommend you a book. I don't know if you read books, but
Yes, yes,
okay.
yes. Not just not the.
Yeah, I
So
don't really read
Antonio,
books.
I tried to get it.
Sorry, that's not what I meant. Because
That's
the
okay.
guys here don't like reading books.
That is, yeah,
Well,
yeah.
one book in particular is always recommended to newbies. The Design of Everyday Things
Oh
Yeah.
God. Yeah.
So hard
I
to
got
get through.
into
Yeah.
the first 15 pages, and I'll be honest,
No.
I've read the same 50 pages at least 3 times at different times.
Okay,
So,
well,
but
mine
I'm
is
open
not
to
like that.
suggestions.
Yeah, no, so this one is very easy to read. It's called Think Like a UX Researcher by David Travis and Philip Hodgson. I don't know how to pronounce his name. I'm sorry if I sabotage anybody's name, but just write Think Like a UX Researcher. There's another author that I really, really love, and he's actually a UX designer. He's been designing for a long time. He designs in Boston. His name is John Kolko. Kolko. He wrote a book that is called Well Designed. It's basically teaches you how to use, empathy and good principles to apply it to your design. So these are the 2 books that I would recommend. Very different, but the first one is about research and the other one is about empathy, and they're very easy to read.
Me and Antonio really got out of books, just caveman technology. Just find somebody you want to emulate, hit them over the head with something, and kidnap them, and shake them down for whatever they know. You'll get there.
But I want to end on this. At the end of the day, don't think about it too much. User experiences anywhere you are, like everywhere, any time of the day, any second, any minute. You go to the movies, that's UX. You go to
Any
the
field,
the
yeah.
museum. You go to your friend's house. That's an experience. So don't overthink it.
Well, this has been an absolutely glorious conversation. I've loved every minute of this. I think we're at the time to wrap it up.
It's been so amazing, speaking with you guys and just getting to, like I said, I love talking to others, and just I always feel like you have something new to learn, or different perspective, whether they're younger than you, older than you, more experienced than you, less experienced than you. I think it just goes to show like everybody has something to bring to the table. And I think that's the journey piece, especially as a junior designer, trying not to like compare yourself to other people, or especially like senior designers or people who have already, developed, more established. I guess my last question, if anything, is especially because, like I said, I don't have as much industry experience. What would be the best advice you have? Any last words for people like me who have not yet started applying, but will start it, that process?
From everything that I've heard of your approach and how you understand the discipline at large, the only thing missing is the practical application, right? How can you summarize that into a visual task, right? That you set out to solve. Once you have that, and you can speak to a hiring team the same way you spoke to us, like the way that you were prepared for just this call, if you prepare for your interviews the same way, you are going to knock it out of the park. I can absolutely promise you that. This was such a refreshing call. Not that our other calls haven't been great. We've had really great calls with all of our guests so far. The position that you're in right now and the level of understanding is just so different, right? On an average scale, it's just so different. And I think I don't have a lot to give you, which is kind of strange because I like to tell people to do stuff all the time, but I don't have a lot to give you to work on. Just find something to build, right? Everything that you're learning, find something that you're intimate with, right? Something that you know already from your previous career, something that you interact with every day. Like Crystal said, find something that you can wrap a problem around and go do it. Go do it.
I have something to add, actually, to give you a bit of inspiration. So you showed us a lot of maturity today and confidence. So use those. Those are very powerful, and apply it in your resume and in your portfolio. Like when I look at those, I should see how mature you are, how you understand everything you told us, and how confident you are. Don't be shy about that, ever.
Yeah, I'm gonna call it. Then in a couple of months' time, we're gonna be inviting Katie back, and she's gonna be telling us about the job that she got.
About her job. Yeah.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah, just I'm a future UX researcher. Just
Uh-huh.
I will. I'll say that you ask great questions. You really do ask really good questions, and that is a very tough skill to train in junior designers. So the fact that you naturally ask good questions means you're set up. You're going to do great. if I had to give one piece of advice, it is when you are ready to apply, tap into the hidden job market. Don't rely on applying through job boards or LinkedIn. Of course, don't not do that. You can do that too. But the odds of you getting a job through there are going to be lower versus the hidden job market. What I mean by the hidden job market is connections, networking, building a network. It's all who you know. Build strong relationships with people, show them your passion, show them what you showed us today, and you won't have a problem getting the position.
Spitting fire. Everyone's spitting fire. I'm going to write all these and put it on my desktop wallpaper.
Nice.
If it helps you keep moving, I have like sticky notes, you know, of quotes that like keep me going. So if we can help you, go ahead and do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Maybe I'll write that book that I said I was going to write years ago.
After your K-pop career takes off.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. I know they got the demo. I know they got it. I'm sure they.
It's far away. It takes some time, you know.
Yeah, they're probably just
You need to do a little, just bleach the hair.
They got to
a little
pick
bit,
their
maybe.
jaws up off the floor first.
maybe. Yeah, I'm sure they're just working out the contract details. That's what it is.
I'll teach you a little bit of the crane language.
Love it.
That's great.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much.
You got it, Katie.
It was an honor just, being a guest and just hearing everybody speak. And I'm inspired. I'm motivated. I got some new books to read, and I hope, other people are in my shoes feel the same way. Just, finding inspiration.
All right. Well, Katie, thank you once again. We're going to let you go, and we'll be in touch again real soon. Take care.
Sounds good. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right.
Good luck.
Katie.
Bye.
All right, my friends, that is going to wrap us up for today. If you are interested in appearing on our show as a +1 guest, there is a form that you can fill out for the opportunity. That is at uxdesignjob.com/podcast. Again, that is uxdesignjob.com/podcast. Hope you've enjoyed this one. We appreciate your support, and please remember that no matter what you do, to always remember to include your +1. See you next time.